populated our tables with data that was required. So today we're going to complete another process, and that is our queries. Now, as was mentioned, the basis of any database is your tables. So you need tables to work with. And so we are going to be working with all the tables we have. Now, a query is pretty much searching for information. Looking for information that is in a table and returning the values. Good? Now, the first query we are asked to do is to list the name, student ID, address, phone number of all lower school students who have paid in full. Good? Let's do this. Now, the first thing you want to do is to select the create icon here, and then we want to go to query design. When we go to query design, we get our query grid in the background, and we have our show table dialog box. Now, this dialog box shows us all the tables that we have in our in our database. Now, the first thing we need to know in searching for our data is, where do I find this data? Now, we want the name of the students and the student's ID. So we know that this information is found in the student personal data table. It is us. The ID is also found in the other two tables, but we want student name, and this only appears in our student data table. We want the address for the students, and we already know that the address of our parent or guardian matches the address of the student. And we want phone number, which is found in our student data table as well. We also need to look at the grade level and the payment method. Now, the grade level and the payment method is also found in the school fee table. So in this case, we are going to be using all three tables to create this query. So let's go. So we want parents' data, because this is where we're going to get our addresses from. We want the school fee data, because this is where we're going to be getting stuff like payment method. And we want our student data. So let's close. Now, as I said before, here's your query grid. In order to get the field, so the field name and the table name will appear. Once you've selected a field in any of the tables, then the name automatically appears in the field, and the table that the field is pulled from appears in the table field. Now, let's go. So the first thing we want to bring down is our student ID. And to do this, we double click on the field name that we want. So, student ID, we want the student's name. So and I want to go first name, last name. We want the address for the students, and this will represent our parents' address. So we want Street, Town, and Parish. And I have this twice, so let me delete one. So I want to delete this column. And we want the student's telephone number. So we have the student's telephone number. We also need to have the grade level that the student is in. So we're going to go with the grade level. And you notice as you double click, the field name appears in the next empty column. And we want our payment method, and that is found in our school fee data table. Okay, so we have all the fields we want. Student ID, first name, last name, street, town and parish, student telephone number, the grade level, and the payment plan. Now you notice that the show boxes are now ticked. So this means that each field, data from each field rather, will show in our data view. Now, the next thing you want to look at is, are there any criteria for our search? Is there anything in particular that we're searching for? And it says here, we are only searching for students in the lower school category and who have paid in full. Now, bear in mind, ladies and gentlemen, that in your criteria field, the criteria must match exactly the search, the field name or the data that you're searching for. So there can't be any spelling errors. You can't shorten a term and search for it. You must find it exactly the way you have it in your database. And it's no problem to open your table to look. So for example, I'm looking for grade level. So I open my table and I want to see how I write my grade level. And I want lower school, so I'm just going to copy from here. So I'm ensuring that the data will appear the same way I have it. And I'm going to paste it here. My payment plan is eFull. I want to open my school fee data and I want to look for eFull and I want to copy it. Now bear in mind that it is quite okay for you to type it in. Just ensure that it is entered in the exact same way that you have it in your database tables. Now, so I have selected my fields and I have inserted my criteria. And so I want to now run my query. Now this button here, this icon here indicates that you're going to run your query. Now when you run your query, if it returns values, then it means that you did your query the proper way. If it didn't, there may be one of two things. Either no one from the lower school paid in full, or you did not enter the criteria the exact way you had it in your tables. So let's hit the run key and see what happens. There you go. So I have all the data I am looking for. So I have full records of students who have paid in full and are from the lower school. So you're asked to save your table using a particular name, and we're going to be using that name. So I'm going to hit the save key and I'm going to insert the name, and I like to put query at the end, and I'm going to hit OK, and my query is now saved. So now, and it shows you each table where data is pulled from. So you notice that this query data was pulled from all three tables. Now you can organize your stuff by selecting this menu option here, and you can just say all tables or tables and related views, or you can select object types and it will list the tables and then the queries. Okay, so the next thing, let me just get a little bit of data off my screen. So the next thing you want is to do query number 2. And query number 2 asks you to list the names of the students and their ID, the total amount they paid, but it wants you to only list students who have paid in excess of $20,000. So let's do this query. So we're going to go back to create, query design, and from this query we are going to be getting data from our students data, and that is for the names and ID numbers, and from our school fee table where we will be getting the total amount paid by the students. And we're going to follow the same procedure we followed previously. Notice that the show boxes are empty now. There's no data for it to show. So we want student ID. I'm going to say first name, last name, and I want the total paid, and this is going to be the school fee paid. You may have amount paid. Here I have school fee paid, and I'm going to ensure that that comes down. But it says, remember, we have a criteria, and the criteria says students whose total payment exceeds, which means is greater than $20,000. So under our school fee, in our criteria field, we are going to say greater than 20,000. So we want all school fees that are greater than $20,000. Let's hit the run key and see what happens. Voila! So I have all the names of the students who have paid in excess of $20,000. And I want to save that. And I just want to make sure that I use the same name that was used here. And my query, I have query number 2. Let's go again. So query number 3. For query number 3, we are asked to count the number of students who applied for tri-payment. So here we have another criteria. Okay? So let's go. So let me just close that a little. Create, query, and we want, so we're going to select our fees table, add. So in this case we're using just one table, create, counting the number of students who made the use the tri-payment method. So we want to work with 2 fields. So I'm going to select student ID to work with, and I'm going to select payment plan. In the criteria for payment plan, I'm going to have tri-payment because that's the method I'm looking for. I spelled correctly. And then for this student, we're going to be now using a formula to count. And here we're going to be selecting the totals icon. So we're going to be choosing totals, and then from our totals, we're going to be choosing what we want. So once you hit the totals key, it now updates your table grid, your query grid, with the field name total, and it says group by. Now we want this group by to stay because we want to count. So we're going to click here from this combo drop down arrow. We're going to select count. Good. So what will happen is that it will count the number of students who made the tri-payment method. So we hit run. There you are. So we have 10 students selecting the tri-payment method. We want to save our query. It's always important to save. Always ensure that you save. So that is query number 3. Now, the next thing we want to do is query number 2. So in doing your delete query, you must ensure that you have copies of your table. So I'm just going to go ahead right now and copy all my tables just to make sure. So I'm going to make a copy of school fee, and I'm going to make a copy of student data. Now let's run our delete query. going to use the copy of my student data table to do my deletes. And I'm going to delete on student's ID. And in my criteria field, I'm going to just open up here, and I'm going to copy here. Now, please bear in mind that it is okay for you to write it in. Just ensure that you write it the exact same way it is in your database table. I'm going to use this one, and I'm going to put it in the OR field. So I'm going to delete this or this. So let's go back to design. Now, bear in mind that whatever, as long as you're deleting data from your table, you must indicate to your access, to your database management system, that you are deleting. And so here on this toolbar, you're going to select delete. Now a new field will appear in your query grid, and it says delete, and it says where. So you're going to be deleting where ID number is that and ID number is this. Once you see that, you hit the run key. Now it asks you, if it tells you you're about to delete, and it says 2 rows, so I know I am deleting 2 rows, 2 records. And it asks you if you want to continue. You must be sure you want to continue, because you cannot reverse a delete query. Now let's go. Now you will not see a table grid on your screen because it deletes in the background, so it deletes the data from your table. Good. So let's save. Save my query. Now you'll notice that it appears here. In order for you to view your query, and I have deleted the records, when you restart this table, all this delete will be gone. Now if you want to open your table structure or your query structure, all you need to do is to select, right click, select design view to open your query structure. Never hit the open. Let's now go to query number 5. Query number 5, the principal along with the Board of Governors have decided that they will increase the discount rate given to those who paid in full and on time to 11.5%. You are to create a query to show this update, and you are to name the query new discount. Let's go. In this case, we are going to be using the fees table. So I'm going to select the fees table, and I'm going to be using the copy of the fees table. It's a copy of school fee data table. That's the one I'm going to be using. Now, we're going to be increasing the discount. Good. So we want to use, and remember guys, when you're making changes or you're working with your field names, you must enclose them in box brackets. So I want to calculate the fee on school fee. Remember, it must be entered in the same form that it is, and each field name must be enclosed in its own box brackets. Now I'm going to say 0.015. Now I am multiplying this by 0.015 simply because, guys, we already had given a 10% discount for those persons who are using the eFull. We had already given a 10% discount. So because we had given them a 10% discount and we're only updating to 11.5, it therefore means we must only calculate a 1.5 percentage point on our school fee, and then we're going to be adding it to our discount. Now you'll notice that I use a minus sign simply because in my database table and in yours, we are working with a minus figure. So your discount, wherever you see a discount, there's a minus symbol in front of it. So minus and minus gives you a positive number. So a negative and a negative gives you a positive, right? So if I use a plus symbol, all that will happen is it will subtract that 1.5% from the discount. So it would not be reflective of what the discount really is. Good? Now, the other thing we want to know is the criteria. And the criteria is that it is only given to those who have the full payment. So we need to insert the payment plan. And and I'm still using my copy table. In the payment plan, on the criteria, I am going to put E-full because I only want this to be updated on the E-full method. Good? So now I'm going to hit run. So I'm going to go to design here and I'm going to hit run. Now it tells me that I'm about to update 17 rows. Now remember, once you're updating a table, once you hit the yes key, you cannot undo this update. Right? So I'm going to hit yes. Now, just like your delete table, it does not divert to a table view. Good? An update query is similar to, in function, to a delete query. It does the update in the background. Good? Now, I want to know if it was updated. So I'm going to go to my fees table. Now my fees table, the copy says $2,837. Good? So let me check if that is correct. So I'm going to go to my original table and it says 2,500. That means my table was updated. So my query was done and the update is okay. Now bear in mind, people, that you cannot hit the run key more than once. If you hit the run key any time again, it is going to update what is there already. So it is going to update a second time. So be sure not to hit that key again. Now let us save. And we're asked to save it as new discount. And I'd like to use query at the end. So I have done query number 5 there. So any changes you want to make to your query, you will have to right click and select view or design view. So let's look at our other query. And this query is, so query number 6. And query number 6 states, the age of student may be a factor in determining grade level, of which they are a part. List the name and date of birth for students who are between the ages 17 and 19, inclusive. Now this is important, inclusive. Okay. Now, so let's go to our query. Now I want you to pay close attention to what will be done. So for this query, we want the name and date of birth of the students. So we are going to be using our student data table, and I'm going to be working with the copy table for the time being. So I'm going to select student data table, copy, and add. Now you're asked to give the name and date of birth. So I want first name, last name, date of birth. Good? So we're going to be doing calculation for the age. Now we have to put in a function to do this. And the first thing you want to do is to give your field a name. And they're asking us to return the age. So what we need to do is to create a field. So I'm going to be creating a new field to put this information in. Now I'm going to be using what we call a date difference formula to get the age of our students. So I'm going to have date diff, and this represents the difference between the date of birth and today's date. And in brackets and quotation, I'm going to put 4Ys, and that is telling the database engine to return the age in year. And we're going to be checking our date of birth, so we're going to be working with our date of birth to gather this information. And remember that any field name you're using that is within your table must be placed in box brackets. And then I want to use the today's date formula. So I'm using today's date formula that says I want the difference between the date of birth and today. So this difference between date of birth and today's date will be played out right here. Good. So we want to ensure that we have this an even amount of brackets. So this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there should be one more to make it 6. So we have an even amount of brackets, and we want this to show. So we need to tick it. Now we are working with a criteria because the criteria says the ages we must only return students who are between 17 and 19, and that includes age 17 and age 19. So let's go back to our database. So for that, we're going to be using our criteria field. And for our criteria field, we're going to say we want those persons who are greater than or equal to 17 and less than or equal to 19 years old. Now when I hit the run key, it should return the students who are 17 to 19 years old. Let's see if I did this formula correct, this query correct. Run. Yes, I did. So it gives me all the students who are 17, 18, and 19. So I know I did my query correctly, and I'm gonna save. And it says this query is to be called 17 to 19. Good. So I have my 6th query. Now we need to do query number 7. And query number 7 is a calculated field, and we're going to be calculating the total amount paid for each method of payment. So we're going to be calculating the total paid for each method of payment, and we're going to be showing the method of payment and the amount. So we're going to be doing a totals query. So let's go. And we are going to be using the school fee data, and I'm going to be sticking with the copy of the school fee table. So I'm going to use payment plan and the school fee paid, because we want to know how much is paid in each of that. So here I want to hit the totals key here, right, because we want the total. So we want it to be grouped by payment plan, and we want the sum of the values. So we want it to be grouped by payment plan, but we want the sum of the values for the school fee paid for each payment plan. So I'm selecting sum, hit run, and there it is. So for by payment, we collected $245,050. For E4, $540,000, and for try payment, we collected $132,100. So let's save our query. Now, I'm sure you'll find it easier to type in all of this data. Good. So we have one last query to do. So query number 8, or balance query. Okay. So here, I'm going to go to query design. And I'm going to use my copy tables just the same. And close. And I want to create a relationship between these two just to make sure I have everything. Let's look at what we're required to have. So we want to have the names, total paid, and balance of all students who made part payments. Now I'm just going to insert something here a little. So I want student ID number, as well as the names and the total to be paid. So let's go. So I want student ID, last name, first name. I want the amount of money that was paid. I want the payment plan. And then I'm going to create a field for my balance. So I have student ID, the names, total paid, and I want to create a field for my balance. So I'm going to be doing a formula to get my balance. So I want to say balance. And I'm using this a similar function to what I did with the age function, right? And I'm going to say, put all of these in brackets. So let me leave that for the end. So I'm going to be subtracting the school fee paid from the school fee amount. And remember, your field names must be enclosed in box brackets. Extend this a little. So I'm subtracting these and put these in parentheses, and I want it to show, and I want only the persons who selected the by payment method or the try payment method, and you could have placed them on the same line with the word or in between. So let's see now. Student ID, last name, first name, school fee paid, payment plan, and we want to calculate the balance paid. Let's run our query. Good. So we have our query. Let's save our query, and we're going to call this query balance.